Okay, I think most of you have met the person to my left, Orlando Zucchetto, NLP Fusion, who's going to really talk about sensory mastery, which people that know me, this is very close to my heart because it was a big catalyst for me to change and transform my life, be it in the breathing world or in the business world or in family relationships. And when we talk about diet, sometimes we just talk about nutrition, what we eat. And it's not really about that. It's about what we consume. And what we see, what we hear, what we touch, what we taste, what we feel are vitally important to how we may react. And it's easy to say sensory mastery and this is what you must do and this is what you mustn't do, but what Orlando, I hope, is going to, what he taught me was how to master my senses, how to look, how to really look, how to hear, how to really hear, and how to choose where my energy goes. And it changed my life, and it's changed lots and lots of people's lives. He's trained with Richard Bandler. He's trained with Kate Benson, who's trying to get this into schools. And there's many, many names that he's worked with. He's got a course on the Breathing Festival. It's an affordable course. It's 10 to 12 episodes, and it goes into each module of I would say NLP, hypnosis, sensory mastery. Right?
Yeah, a basic foundation level where each module that's there, you can build upon it. It's recorded so you can go back to it. For those of you that like to take notes, you can rewatch it many times. You can make different series of notes, and then when you forget them, you can just remember what you watched.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm just going to hand over to Orlando because we've got about an hour and 20 minutes, and then we've got about 15, 20 minutes before we go to just change and do the sweat lodge after that. So give it up for Orlando Zucchetto.
Well, thank you very much, especially to Vijay and Pete. Thank you for the presenter, but to have the opportunity to meet all of you. And I'm absolutely looking forward to some of the experiences which are quite different from my experiences, like lodges, breathing exercises, ice baths, big picture of my world. So it's going to be a day or two, I imagine. Yesterday I fulfilled a dream that began 36 years ago. Some of you are not going, I'll have to explain what I'm about to tell you because you simply weren't alive, potentially. But 36 years ago, at age 11, you can imagine my excitement as an 11-year-old boy when an envelope arrived in the letterbox. The envelope contained a letter. A letter is an email that's handwritten. I opened the letter, and it was from my pen pal who was in Canada. And I would then write a letter back to him and post it to him, and then somewhere around 2-3 months later, he would send back to me. It was pretty efficient. I don't know why email's taken off so well, but it was a good pace that I enjoyed working at. And for 2 years we were in contact, and over time we lost touch. But the last envelope, or one of the last memories I have of an envelope, was opening it, and there was you can imagine, on a tiny postcard about yay big, an image of a lake. And the lake showed the mouth of a river, and within that river mouth was an enormous moose with these huge antlers. Now, in New Zealand, we have nothing like a moose, right? We have a big horse. That's about as good as it gets. And then the photographer, in hindsight, now looking at that picture in my mind's eye with the perspective of an adult, that must have been the photograph of a lifetime. Because not only that, but it was obviously taken from a boat in the water. An eagle was passing directly above the moose at the instant he took the photograph, or she took the photograph. Now, my 11-year-old self had absolutely zero interest in what the photographer was doing. I looked at that and went, I want to see a moose. So if there isn't one by the end of the weekend, I'll be bitterly disappointed. We have a lake. So yesterday it was quite special arriving in Canada and fulfilling something that for me, this is my first trip to North America, to land in Canada and actually be here. I have absolutely every reason to believe it'd be the first of many trips here. So that's the excitement phase for me. Now, what we're going to do today is a series of demonstrations. I'm not going to lecture you on what is neuro-linguistic programming, what is NLP. That is my primary modality. It's not the only thing I do, but you're going to notice a lot of my work comes from that if you have any experience or if you look elsewhere. I personally mentored with Dr. Richard Bandler for a couple of years. I'm still in touch with him and do work with him from time to time in London, and now COVID's over, back to Florida. But as you can imagine, it wasn't difficult for me to get an introduction when I went to a training of his in 2016, and he was introduced to Orlando in Orlando, Florida. It made for very easy picking. So what we're going to do is a couple of demonstrations so that you get to experience something where you get to see, feel, and hear what can happen when you become aware of something that Peter was very good to touch on for me, and that is how people learn to do things. Because much like anxiety, joy, happiness, emotions that we have labels for, we never had labels for them. We had to learn the label. And then some people, that learning machine has just gone into overdrive, and absolutely we can use the breath to guide our behavior. We can use it to move our body first, to influence our emotions, to influence our thinking. I'd just like you to, today, during this presentation, notice what you could use from changing the way you think to changing how you feel, and noticing the impact it has on your breathing, on your body, on your capabilities. And as Richard, in my mind, as Vijay mentioned, the title that we've used many times is sensory mastery, because there are many pathways to the divine. There are many different ways to engage with your senses, and what I offer you today is something that I find phenomenally useful in my work as a client coach, both privately and professionally, with individuals and groups, to teach people how they can do something different. It's not about forgetting what you've done in the past, because right now in this moment, you are the best you could possibly be right now. It's impossible to be better than you are right now. And in every moment that passes, you can choose to learn or improve something, because you are all learning machines. You've done it your whole life. You learnt to walk. You learnt to talk. Some of you learnt more than one language. You learnt to read and you learnt to write. You've just done all of these things. When children learn to walk, for example, I don't have children myself. I think it's about 18 months that they start to walk. Some a bit earlier, some later. Would that be fair? Roughly? Okay. When they get to 24 months, if they're not walking, do we go, oh, well, Billy's broken. He's a bum shuffler, or he's a crawler, he's never going to walk? Of course not. We have an inbuilt belief that we encourage, we nurture, we assist them to learn. We change their environment so that they can learn. And as we become adults, the cool thing is we get to change our own environment. It's only a question of how. And it's not about the content. It's not about the subject of what's going on. It's about the structure of how we do thinking and how we are processing information. And then we can learn how else we could be doing it. And that gives you choices. And choices is freedom. So, I wonder, what happens for all of you if I was to say, don't think of a fire engine? I had to say fire engine, not pink elephant, right? Come on, it's a bit cliche. But did anyone here think of a fire engine? Yeah. Can anyone see it in their mind's eye? Yeah. Do you mind, sorry, I'm not sure of your name. Tide. Tide, what colour is your fire engine? Red. And can you see it quite clearly? And can I borrow you to be a volunteer for the demonstration? Sure. Wonderful. What an excellent decision. You won't need one. Okay, guys, so all I'm going to do is ask you a few questions, and what I would like you all to do is watch him, not me, because I'm going to be watching him, not you, because that's where the action's happening, okay? Imagine he is a client. So when you think of this fire engine, it was red, was it?
Correct.
Right, is this a still frame image in your mind, or is it like a movie?
Still frame.
A still frame, okay. And would you say that that still frame image, is that near to you, or is it far away?
Here.
It's near, like how near would it be?
Very close. Like I'm right next to the fire engine. It's right
Oh, okay.
I'm leaning on it.
Oh, you're leaning on it.
Yeah.
So can you see the whole fire engine, or you just see the part that you're leaning on?
It kind of morphed as we talked about it.
Oh,
Yeah.
all righto. So what is it now?
I'm still leaning on it.
You're still leaning on it.
Yeah.
Right. Now, if I was just to suggest to you to move that picture, that image back a bit further so you could change perspective and see it as if it was on a screen,
Okay.
are you still leaning on it?
No.
Oh. So it was,
Yeah. It was here. Now it's there.
now it's over there.
Correct.
Cool. So if you could just close your eyes for a moment. We're not going to do any hypnosis, by the way. I don't really do hypnosis like people think of hypnosis. I'm just going to say words, and if his state of consciousness changes, completely up to you. Okay? So I'd just like you to think about, and I do not want you to give me any content about this, okay? No names, no details in that respect, just very short answers to the questions I ask. I'd like you to think about someone that you really love. You got one? Cool. And is that image near or far away?
Near.
Near. How close?
How close is that?
How near is this one? Yep.
Right here.
Right here. Beautiful. And is that one in color or black and white?
Color.
And does it have a frame around it?
No.
No frame. And how big is it? Could you show me with your hands how big that image is? Very big. Can your hands show me? Oh, wow, that big. All right. So I'd just like you to open your eyes and maintain that image inside your mind and just notice how you feel when you see that image. Okay, just log that for yourself. Now, that image is here, right?
Right.
So what happens to that feeling as that image follows my hand closer and closer to the back of the room?
Fades.
Oh. And what happens when it comes closer?
Intensifies.
Okay, and if you close your eyes and feel really good, what happens if you just double that feeling? Does the picture change?
Kind of like disintegrates into the field. Like gets even closer where you can't focus.
No need to focus.
No need to focus.
Nice. All right, well, you can open your eyes. That's enough good feelings for one moment. Jeez, you end up far too happy by the end of this. Now, the reason that I like to focus on really good feelings is in the industry of, shall we say, holistic therapies, different therapies, looking after people, making change work, often the counterexample is given. Where's the worst feeling you've got? And let's change that. Well, I'd like you to be open to the idea that all of this change work can take your best feeling in the world and make you feel awesomer. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to make yourself feel better. Like, all I have to do is say that picture,
Right.
and you feel,
Better.
huh,
Love,
okay,
yeah.
better love, love better.
Better love.
Beyond words, right? Now, is it fair? Would it be fair for me to assume that that image is connected to a feeling? Yeah, and when the image changes, the feeling changes. So, I wonder if you can all imagine if we had started with a negative example and he learnt how to move that further away, would it be logical that that feeling would dissipate? There's the answer. Okay. Oh, we do need that. Thank you. You're good. All right. So, with that in mind, for example, Peter mentioned to us that earlier that things like anxiety are learnt. Well, the question is, how do you learn to do something else? Because instead of unlearning how to do it, it might be useful one day. Anxiety is a good thing in the right situation. But what if you were to learn something on top or beside of it so you had the choice? And then when you feel a feeling taking over, you had the ability to go, what has preempted the feeling? What thought is occurring, or what series of thoughts am I utilizing in a visual realm that I could make changes to? Would that be useful to yourself?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, you're now scrolling through a few different ideas of, hey, well, I can make a change to that one and that one and that one.
Exactly.
And then some of those other ones that are pretty good that you want better, what would you do with those?
Same.
Yeah, but just the opposite, just bring them closer.
Yeah.
And now, we're obviously talking about distance here, thoughts being close, thoughts being far away. All of this is in our language, right? It feels like I'm overwhelmed, I have something on me, a feeling is upon me. Something's going on, it's taking over me. Well, when we start thinking literally what do those words mean, we can start having an idea of, well, if it's taking over me, how is it taking over me? If it's overwhelming, how is it overwhelming? Because the really cool thing I love about this work is, does anyone in the room know who he's talking about? No. Maybe one person. Now, a lot of the work that we do when we're actually, that's absolutely wonderful. Let's give him a round of applause. You did
I just got the head
absolutely
mic
wonderful.
though.
That's all right, we can take that off. I'll let you go in there and get that. Okay. Now, you do not need to do a 7, 12, 30-day training in neuro-linguistic programming to the practitioner, the master practitioner, level to be able to use that skill. Now that you have that information, you haven't taken it from me, you haven't taken it from everyone, you've just got a copy of it. And you have the ability to use that. You can take that information, you're probably sitting there right now continuing to use it, but you can all do exactly what he's done. Now, just out of interest, how many people here, whilst watching that demonstration, were imagining somebody that they love and moving their own picture around? Was anyone doing that? No. Okay. And maybe you thought of an application of, if there's something in my world that's not going so well, what could I do with that? You know, like a bad memory that is a memory that makes me feel bad now that's not happening. Well, that's a wonderful tool that you can use, but it relies on the ability to actually recognize the visual thought that you're having in any given moment, right? And that's not everyone's forte. Fair call. Have you ever been working with a client and noticed that there's actually two people in the room? The one you can see and the one that's standing behind them that you can't see? When you say to your client, come on now, say something good about yourself, and they say, I am a good person. And then you can almost hear the voice behind them and go, no, you're not. No, you're not. Has anyone ever had one of those voices? No. Now, often it's termed as the critical voice. Well, that's lovely, isn't it? Who here's got a cheerleader? Yeah. An internal cheerleader. That is a voice that you use that you regularly talk to yourself in. Now, what I'm going to suggest is that we do another demonstration and give you a couple of tips of what you can do if that sneaky little voice gets in and starts speaking to you and the cheerleader seems absent or is busy, otherwise unavailable or outside the coverage area, shall we say. How would you feel about that? Yeah? I wonder if we could ask Charlotte if she'd like to come up and volunteer. Okay. Grab a seat, sit down, be comfortable, relax. Okay, great stuff. Thank you very much, Charlotte. And there's a specific reason that I've chosen Charlotte for this, and I will share it with you all by the end of this. Okay? You look so worried. It's all right. Just hold.
Sweating at all right now.
No, you don't have to. You love being in front of a group of people. I mean, it's almost as bad as beers. Look at them all. Right. That's a whole other conversation about beers, but not the ones you drink. So let me ask you this. When you do speak to yourself in a voice that makes you feel really good, when you need that encouragement and you get it, how would you describe that voice?
You're doing awesome. Keep going.
Okay, so that's what it would say to you. How is it saying it to you?
It's energetic. Energetic.
It's energetic.
It's energetic.
Okay. Where's it coming from?
I would say myself.
I would say yourself too, yeah. Because if your thoughts are coming from anyone else in the room, then no, you should probably take it up with them later. That's a different conversation entirely. But, okay, let me try this a different way. Just close your eyes for a moment and choose one of those phrases that you like to say to yourself, something that when you say it, it works, right? In that energetic voice. And simply notice, is it coming from the left or the right, the front or the back? That's hard. That's because you're talking on the outside, not on the inside.
It's right inside my brain.
Right inside your brain. Okay. And you can open your eyes. Let's just have a comparison. And I want you to do this really quickly. And you're not going to dive into the feeling. You're just going to do something you know from memory, okay? That's right. The click thing. Oh, what's the click mean? All right. Just close your eyes. You know that critical voice that sneaks in there sometimes? Yeah, that one. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I know.
Oh, yeah. Where's that coming from?
The right side.
Which right side?
This right side.
Okay, cool. Just testing. Open your eyes. When you repeat something to yourself over and over again in a way that's not particularly useful, can I just take the microphone for a second? There is a reason I'm holding this. Just close your eyes and really focus on where's that cheerleader voice and put your hand up to point to where it's coming from. Okay? And now repeat the phrase over and over again.
I'm proud of you. Good job.
Yeah, on the inside voice.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Apology accepted. You're allowed to be human. Okay, where's the other voice? The other voice.
I don't hear it.
Oh, okay. So just slow down for a moment and remember a time where you have used that other voice. Because we want to catch the sneaky little bugger. Because when it comes back here next time, you want to be able to grab it and give it a good old shake. So if you were to be critical to yourself, how would you say that? Where would that voice come from?
I would just pick the opposite, like over here.
And now, are you picking the opposite, or is that where it is? Is it quiet, or is it loud? Is it in you?
I don't know.
If you just open your eyes first, maybe I'm making
It's
this.
hard to do it on the spot.
Yeah, maybe I'm making a little bit too. Oh, you feel too good. That's your problem. You're smiling all day. Right. So can I just go back to your original comment? That is what Charlotte said to me in the first place. That it's in your head. Maybe it's in there. Right? Just maybe. So what would happen if you just imagined grabbing it and going, and just bring it over here? And now say something that you would normally say critically to yourself from over here.
You're not good enough.
Okay, now just use your imagination and have it come from here.
You're not good enough.
Now, that is what I was after, okay? Isn't it interesting when it comes over here how it has to go into I don't know what voice that is, but like Mickey Mouse is having a good day voice, right? You couldn't use the other voice because when it comes over here, it's different. Now, there's something, who was it that said, Insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. Thank you very much. Quite a smart fellow. What's the opposite of that? Do something different, you're going to get a different result every time. The key is what to do different. Now, first we're going to give Charlotte a round of applause. Thank you very much, Charlotte. And the key to doing something different is all of these skills, if you would like to use them for working with your clients. Number one, if you're good enough for your clients, use them yourself. If you're going to spend your professional life making other people feel good, what about that person in the mirror? What if you spoke to you like your favorite client? Wow. If you speak to yourself differently, start doing it now. Okay? And I know, and I'm guilty of this myself, okay? It's okay to be human. It's the awareness of catching yourself. I will give to other people, and I'll give to the point where I wear myself down, and then I'm very lucky that I've got a good network of friends that say to me, all right, Orlando, you're being an idiot. It's time to look after yourself. You need some time out, or you need to take care of yourself in this respect. Because sometimes if we're giving to others, we forget to take care of ourselves first. And every time we get on an aeroplane, we get reminded. If a mask like this drops down, place it over them, pull the thingies. Always ensure your safety mask is on before assisting others. And that's a really good plan. Now, I love being in front of people and I love talking, but many of you would have noticed that at lunch I was there sparingly and I actually went off on my own. I was like, all right, thoughts? Hello? Self? Is that you? Yes. What are we doing? Don't know. Okay. When are we going to start? When VJ tells us to. And I literally go away and I have a conversation with myself and I have a plan before I get in front of other people. Not just for the content, not just for the structure, but for how I'm going to be before I get in front of them. And this is exactly the same when I'm working with a client and I'm targeting anxiety because it simply seems to be a lot of it around. I don't know where it is all coming from. And part of that is realizing words matter. Labels matter. I have anxiety. Now, a good friend of mine is Irish, and he said to me, it's interesting, in the Irish language, the literal translation is, depression is upon me, was his first example. Anxiety is upon me. Now, whether it's literally true that it's on the person or not, I really did think, I like that. Because it's no longer an I am statement. You know, I am a motor vehicle. Beep, beep. Doesn't make a lot of sense, right? But I am anxiety. Well, the reason we can use words like anxiety, depression, hypnosis, as if they're things, is through a process where we take a verb and we freeze it in a moment of time and we pretend it's a thing. Now, one of my opening statements to clients that come in and say, I have anxiety, is I say, great. Pop it down on the desk, that'll be £150, have a great day, best session ever. No, it's not like that, you don't understand. I'm like, no, I'm not standing under the problem at all, I don't understand. And they're like, no, it's not like that. I'm like, okay, let's be a little nice to our client for a moment. What do you mean by you have anxiety? And they do things like this. Oh, it's a feeling in my heart. And I go, oh no. I'm not a medical doctor, I'm not a biologist, but if this is where the heart is, I think I know the problem. And they go, well, why would stomach? I'm like, you started it. And they're not even aware of where their hands are going. Now, I want to thank Charlotte for providing me the opportunity to know that she was going to be a wonderful demonstration subject, because she demonstrated it to me yesterday at lunchtime. When she was talking, I got the directions incorrect. A story to someone else that I didn't hear the content of, but one of them felt really good and the other one didn't feel so good, and the other one felt really good and the other one didn't feel so good. And I went, Charlotte's hands are telling me how she talks to herself. Wonderful. I'll use that on stage tomorrow. That makes it easy. Thank you, Charlotte. And here's the thing. We all do it. You ever had one of those feelings? Feels good. Now, you'll see me do this a lot when I have a good feeling. It doesn't mean that my mind is in my stomach all of the time, but it's simply a location. It's simply a direction. So I invite you all now just for a moment, rather than do this as a demonstration with one person, I thought we'd demonstrate with everybody. Okay, you can all give something a go. Just take it, but if you've got notes and things and bits and pieces in front of you, just pop them down for a second. Okay? It's not a lot of effort required here. You're going to close your eyes and follow instructions. Nice and easy. Simply close your eyes, and I want you to think about a person or activity that makes you feel really good. A person or an activity that you connect to a positive feeling really quickly and really easily. It could be joy, it could be love, it could be excitement, it could be pleasure. It could be a lot of things that are positive. And as you focus on that feeling, I want you to notice where in your body is that feeling occurring first. And place your hand on that part of your body. Or point to it. Now, please keep your hand there. I'd like you to open your eyes and look around the room. Now, some people have similar placements, right? Now, you can pop your hands down now. You've all had a look at each other. But a lot of you did it differently. So who got it wrong?
Is that the right word? Wrong? Wrong is the right word?
Wrong is the right word. Who got it wrong? Well, oh, that's right. It's not therapy. There is no right and wrong. It's just different. See, every single one, I will give therapists a hard time because I've met lots of them I didn't like. I'm kidding. I've also met a lot of them that I absolutely love. Okay? Different situations for different things. There are many pathways to the divine, and the moment that somebody has the answers for everyone, my internal voice goes, bullshit. Because there's too many of us. There's 8 billion of us. Okay? There's outside of things like water and air and breathing. Breathing's a good one. Kind of on topic, there's not a lot of things that are completely universal always, right? And I think that's fabulous, because imagine a world full of everyone like me. I would be annoyed, right? In fairness, I was diagnosed at birth with verbal diarrhea. It was by my mother, okay? Apparently, I came out of the womb having a conversation. I was ready to talk, and she God rest her soul, in 99 she decided to pass the Rainbow Bridge, and I'm sure she went over going, would you just shut up for 5 minutes? You will not be surprised to know that when my mother passed away, I had the absolute honour and privilege of sitting at her hospital bed, holding her hand, having a candid conversation with her, as my sister just sat there and shook her head at me like, would you just shut up? And I said, no. Because your voice is energy. All day. And as Corrine beautifully demonstrated this morning, your voice is an incredible instrument. And if you don't believe it is, well, get over it. It's the only one you've got, so learn how to tune the darn thing. Okay? I started learning to play the guitar when I was 12, and I was really bad at it, but I had a lot of fun. And we used to go to church, and they had a church band, and I begged, can I play? And they let me play. And I knew 2 chords. Unfortunately, the songs had several. Didn't stop me. Had a great time. Sung, chirped, had a wonderful time. 30-odd years later, I bought a guitar and went, I'm going to get this. And here's the song that I chose. Layla by Eric Clapton. And I thought, I'm going to learn to play Layla, and we're going to go to the beach, and I'm going to sit there, I'm going to play my guitar, I'm going to sing to Amanda, and she's going to be starstruck. Good plan. Does anyone know that Eric Clapton is one of the top 10 guitarists that has ever lived on the face of the planet? And that Layla is an incredibly intricate song. Yes, all of this escaped me because I was just going to be awesome, right? And then I began to learn to play. Actually sat there with YouTube and learnt the first ding, 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 ding. I didn't get much further past that in an hour. And in that moment, I went, fuck it. And I opened up my laptop and I typed in Eric Clapton, Layla, acoustic. There's I think it's the O2 Arena in UK that he's playing. And he's sitting there with a acoustic guitar and he's just doing this. And he's just wobbling around and his body's moving and he's singing. It's absolutely phenomenal, effortless. And I thought, that's the level of expertise that I want to have when I'm working with my clients. I want them to sit down and, again, my thanks to Sandra and to Peter for their description of be doing, not be actively making it happen. You know, we are naturally born with the ability to breathe, and then we learn. Your neurology, your brain, your spinal cord, your entire neurology is the instrument that you measure everything in this universe. And that is amazing. And the cool thing is, we're all made of the same stuff. Because, think about it, whether it's a religious aspect or whether it's the Big Bang Theory, it all came from one point. And I don't think it's a mistake in the Bible when, whether again it's a religious text for you or not, it's a piece of literary brilliance. Okay, if nothing else, it's had more sales than everything else, so they're doing something right. But it's not a mistake in Genesis when God said, "Let there be light." He didn't draw a picture about it. He didn't get a feeling for it. He said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And I'm not going to go through them, but there's, if you're studying the power where the voice has been enacted in many religious texts, over again you'll find reference to the voice because of its power. And remember, your voice is not sound. It's vibration. It is feeling. Okay? Those feelings that you have in your body, you can generate them. If you haven't used it already, this spot here will teach you. Okay? Absolute gold mine. And it does, I'll segue slightly over here for a moment because there's something else that I'd like to pick up that VJ mentioned earlier, and I'd really like you, I'm sure you've all got an appreciation for this, but I'd just like to give you a slight anecdote of my own with regards to both Peter, Sandra, and all of the presenters that are here, and all of you as well, who have your own story to tell, your own background, your own skills. Take the time to really spend and learn and share and grow from one another. I originally began in New Zealand, and 5 years ago, I left New Zealand for 12 months. And the purpose of my trip was to spend time specifically with Dr. Richard Bandler, with Kate Benson, and several other people around the world that I decided to target that I wanted to get around. Because I was in New Zealand, where it is 12 hours to fly anywhere that's not called Australia. Right? It's a long way away. I travelled here from London. If I had come from my hometown in Christchurch in New Zealand, it's 30 hours to get here, plus the hour from Montreal. Right? Which means the accessibility to a level within the breathwork industry with this information, it's not easy to come by. And you have it all at your fingertips here, which is absolutely incredible. And every one of you is an expert in breathing in some way, shape, or form, because I've noticed no one stopped doing it. That's really cool. So there's a lot for me to learn from all of you. If I keep doing what you're all doing, then I'll get a similar result. And that could be termed, in NLP, that would be called modeling, finding people that do something well and replicating it. But I would like to refer to the immortal words of Bruce Lee, the great philosopher, who I didn't actually realize was a philosopher. He did study, did a degree in philosophy. His quote is to take what's useful, discard the rest, and add yourself. My suggestion to you from my presentation today is everything that you've seen, visually, auditorily, and with feelings within your own body, you can use these highly effectively immediately, but only if you put it into practice. Otherwise, it's worthless to you. But the moment you start practicing it, you'll have a level of competency. And you can practice more and you can learn more if you choose to. There is an entire internet out there of resources. Yes, there's some sifting to do, because just because it's on the internet didn't mean that Einstein said it last week, right? But the resources that the availability we have to information and to each other now is phenomenal. So my suggestion to you is take what's useful, shelve the rest. Shelve it in your mind. Create a bookshelf. Create a library if you have to, and put stuff in there in your imagination. You're already doing it. Whether you're literally doing it now, creating a bookshelf for a library, you have a sorting system inside your mind. And it is made up of all of the resources you've ever had in your life, including intuitions. Intuitions are a wonderful thing. Gut feelings are a wonderful thing. Who here has ever not followed their gut and got into trouble? Well, here's an interesting question. Who followed their gut and it was wrong? Yeah. Now, I would suggest to you the people that put their hands up for following their gut and it was wrong have done a hell of a lot more of it, because it takes time and effort to tune into that which you call intuition. Now, yes, some people have natural gifts that allow them to do things better. There's a reason I'm an NBA basketball player, right? Obviously my accent, not my height, right? But we do have differences, and that's a good thing, because it means that whatever I have a deficiency or a lower ability in, I can find someone else to collaborate with. And that's a wonderful thing. Then we all get to experience something better. But by by being aware of when we're being intuitive and we get it right, we get to somehow in our mind, for me, it's a little green box, and it might be here because that's where my finger goes. Little green box goes, bing, like the sound of my phone. Every time I have an intuition about something and it to be right. And there's also this box, bulb bowl. That would be a red X, which then fades into a smiley face, which grows legs and walks over here and joins the tick box. Because now I learnt something from a message from my intuition. See, your imagination is the most powerful tool that I believe you have for guiding your physiology. Peter referred also, earlier to everything being psychology in some way, shape or form. I believe that. The body and the mind, the split between the body and the mind, I don't know who's got one of those, but I don't want one. It sounds very painful, right? We don't understand everything about our physiology, about our minds, how the interaction is, but there does seem one thing that proves to be true, and that is one can influence the other massively. But again, as I started today, it's not about taking on board. When I work with clients, I very much work from the perspective of change the way you think, it will change the way you feel, and it changes your behavior, what you're capable of. That's only the direction I come from, because that's where the majority of my learning's been, and I enjoy being right. Okay, I enjoy it working for my clients. I want them to get the result. If you are a body worker, if you are a breath worker, and you start with physiology to change the emotion, to change the way you think, if you're starting with some form of psychotherapy, which may change the emotional state, or some kind of activity to change the emotion, to change the intellect and change the body, does it matter? Or is the result more important? Now, my preparation, and I'll open the door to the city of the primary key to my preparation for any presentation. Number one, it's really simple. Spend years doing something and practicing and noticing when you're not good at it, getting help and improving. That's step number one. If you want to teach other people to do something, make sure you can do it yourself. There's a lot of things I don't teach. Step number 2 is trust yourself. Think about this for a moment. How many people in the room, I'll ask a question actually. How much, say 10% of your day of your thought process is conscious and 90% is unconscious? Yeah, maybe a bit higher, maybe. I don't know what the statistics are, and I don't know where the consciousometer is. I don't know exactly how you'd measure it, but there are ways to do such, to a degree. To me, what's vitally important is to learn to trust your intuitions and trust your unconscious to be able to deliver for you. Can anyone here speak a language at least? Now, I ask you this question. How many words, since I've been up here, I've said lots of words, right? I even tried to stop poor Charlotte talking by not giving her a microphone, and yourself. But how many of those words do you think I picked? In the sentence that I'm saying in this particular moment right now, how many words am I choosing and I'm putting and I'm moving them around to get them grammatically correct, changing the syntax, ensuring the pronunciation, and saying them? Tee. I'm just not that smart. I'm a very simple guy. I just make noise out of my head and then I gauge the reaction of the people in front of me if I need to make different noises. I had a classic example of this yesterday. Or was it yesterday? Where is the lovely lady? This morning, thank you. Where I made a noise out of my head, but apparently I have an accent. You guys. But of course, when we work with an international community, which we all do, and that community is very accessible now, we have to be aware that sometimes we can say words that the other person doesn't understand. Now, normally I start a presentation to an international group, which I didn't today. Don't know why, it doesn't matter. And I say to people, should I say anything during this presentation that you do not understand? Please raise your hand and ask me, because there'll be other people in the room that don't have the bravery to put their hand up. And I'd like you to know what I'm talking about. Because otherwise we can have misinterpretations, like we had this morning when I was telling Victoria a wonderful story about my mate Dave, and she said, "I'm sorry to hear that." I thought, well, she seemed nice, but she's a bit mental. And I said, now, the only reason I didn't have my eyes closed, and I wasn't talking to myself, waiting for my turn to talk. I was watching Victoria when she was talking. And I saw the look on her face, and I went, huh? And she went, ah. And Dave, apparently from a New Zealander, sounds like dead. So I just told her, my best is dead. And she said, I'm sorry to hear that, and I thought she was crazy. Now, there's a big difference between Dave and David. And we do have a David here, so I want to make sure that David's in great health and will probably do so for many decades to come, getting better and better every day and living a wonderful life. And I appreciate him being here, because as soon as I met him, it reminded me of my mate David. He's alive. That was, but just becoming aware, being on the outside, especially when you're with clients. But again, I'd like to reiterate, none of these skills that you're learning from me, none of the skills you're learning from any of the presenters are only exclusively to be used when you have a paying client in front of you and you're doing the official breathworks. Okay? Use them everywhere. Use them with yourself, use them with your clients. Be using them for yourself so that you can build within yourself a state of being that carries through as your baseline. And then when the inevitable happens, bad shit happens to good people every day. Just does. Probably happens to bad people as well, but I don't really go looking for them. Bad shit happens to good people every day. But it's what you can do next that counts. It's what you can do next that counts. Which is why today's presentation from myself, I hope, has been very straightforward and simplistic. Because if a moment of trauma occurs, I haven't got the resources internally to go, now, what was that presentation about? Traumatic event, feeling terrible. It doesn't happen. It's got to be quick and easy, able to access what's something I can do in the moment. The simplest things that we can do for our clients are the ones they're more likely to do. Okay? If we give them, here is your 36-step program, and it will take 2 hours a day, I'd like you to do it for 21 days and come back for your second session. Very few people on this planet are going to do that program. But when you make it so simple for other people that they feel that they can win, think about it. Think about what that does for neurology, for your brain chemistry that will flow through every part of your body when you are doing something and stacking the deck in your own favor and you feel that you can do this. And you're going to do this because, well, of course. But the key is to find the small changes that make the largest exponential difference for yourself and for your clients and for the people that you love everywhere for the rest of your life. Because if you only make those differences, they might only be 1%. Change anything by 1% in the positive at the end of the year. Phenomenal results. You know all of this stuff. It's just a matter of what are those little keys. What's a key? One of the keys to the gateway to sensory mastery. Be aware that you are a visual creature. Be aware that you are an auditory creature, and a kinesthetic creature, and an olfactory creature, and a gustatory creature. You have 5 senses. Why pick on one of them to do all the heavy lifting? Use all of them. Use all of them. If you are wanting to move yourself into a relaxed state of mind and body, think about a time you were last relaxed in the same way you'd like to be relaxed in the moment now. And the more you think about that time, the more relaxed your body will respond because you will act as if the memory's happening. Because here is to me, the coolest thing about human beings, myself included, our brains do not differentiate between what's real and what's imagined. And here's my theory as to why. Please excuse me for those with a lot more knowledge of medicine in the room because this is an Orlando description, not an official one. I used to think that my eyes could see. And then I realized they're just globby, goobly mechanisms that measure light, and then an electrical impulse goes into the visual cortex, which then sends other neurological impulses throughout my brain, and somewhere my mind, wherever that is, has an idea and tells me what must be in front of me. But it's not a picture. My eyes aren't taking pictures that are stored somewhere in my brain. It's all happening through this mechanical thing and some wiring and some electricity. I'm sure some of you could explain this a lot more technically. How many of you think your ears hear? You've got a little hammer that goes, it sends electrical messages through to the auditory cortex, which shares it with the rest of the brain, and you interpret it, it must sound like X. And if you ever want to know, if you want to test me on this is one of my fun tests, is actually my partner's son. And sorry, Oscar, if you're watching the video. Oscar's colorblind. I love taking the mickey out of him for it. Okay, we have a good relationship. It's a good thing. But he and I can be sitting looking at a football field, and I will tell him the grass is green, and he will tell me the grass is brown. And no one in this room will convince him otherwise. Because that's what his brain is interpreting. That's what his receptors are picking up. That is the information in his model of the world. And here's the cool thing. We live, in the words of Robert Anton Wilson, we all live in our own reality. And it changes. And it changes every time you have a learning experience. And that is every moment of your life. Right now, some of you are learning how comfortable concrete is to sit on. Some of you are making decisions as to the clothing that you wear. Am I warm? Am I cool? All of these things are happening inside you at the moment. It's all information coming in through your 5 senses. Depending on what you read on the internet, which is always true, of course, through our senses, we we are aware of between 2 and 11 billion bits of data per second. That's how awful you are. Your neurological system is picking up and learning from that all of the time. Now, consciously, apparently we're aware of 134, which I thought was a little specific. 2 billion to 11 billion, 134. Not sure how they measured it, but again, I find it very easy to believe, even if the number ranges aren't entirely accurate, that which we're consciously aware of and what we're unconsciously aware of, like language, just happening all the time. More than once I've made an attempt to learn a language, and I put an audio program on, or I put a video program on, and it's a very mechanical situation. It's very weird. It doesn't really seem to work. But then I go to Spain, and I know exactly how to say dos cerveza. Now, it doesn't mean coffee. That's what I thought, obviously. You end up with 2 glasses, but it was okay. After a few repetitions, I finally got a coffee. But when you're in the environment, when you're immersed in the environment, when your client is immersed in an environment you create, be aware of the environment you're creating, the external environment, what office that you're using, the space I know some people here are in this here. Wow. It took my breath away, and then I stood there and it blew me away. And hearing Jacques' story this morning, I will be back. Anyone that hasn't seen this is missing out on something in their life. Absolutely incredible, just my opinion. And I know some other people in this room have very specific spaces that they're working in, whether you're working with other people or yourself, by the way. Has anyone noticed a difference? I notice this often, but not everyone does. When you go outside, stuff feels different. Has anyone ever sat underneath trees and gone, just feels good? Sitting beside running water, nature, versus being in a city, somewhat different. Now, obviously, they're polar opposites, but think about what is your client walking into when they come to see you as a breath worker or as a healer or whatever it is that you're doing. And then take a step back and go, I've created this wonderful space, flowers, and I've got the Bernie things that Orlando doesn't understand, and I've got the car, I've got all these things going on, and I've got the room, and it's all positioned perfectly. The next question is, what is your environment? That's the environment. These aren't my words. Someone else said them many times. I just like them, so I use them. But what is your internal environment? If you take nothing else from today's talk from myself, take this. Simplest thing in the world you can do. Step 1, what am I thinking about? Just notice it. Okay, in neurolinguistic program, we're not supposed to find out what it is, but you're talking about yourself here. You're allowed to know your own content. Okay, what am I thinking about leads you to, how am I thinking about it? Okay, well, I've got a visual picture, and I'm obviously talking to myself because I'm talking to myself, and I've got a good feeling going on, rightio. And the next question is this. For what I am about to do with and for the other person, is this the most useful state for me to be in? Because maybe you could adjust it just 1 degree. Maybe it would change completely once you focus on who your client is, because different clients, different people. Now, similar neurology, as all you do, most people I've met have got a brain, a spinal cord, a neurological system. But today I learned something that I'm going to add to my next description. Yeah, I like that. We've all got one of these. No one that has ever lived has got the same fingerprint as you. This is why the cookie cutter approach does not work. Skills are optimal. So you can adjust and flex and be flexible with the person that's in front of you. Changing your mind to help them guide theirs, because they have a similar neurology. Many processes will work. And when you build a toolkit of skills, not just techniques, if the technique doesn't work, you just do the other thing. You just adjust and adjust and adjust. And the other thing I really want to highlight that I learned today is I did not realize, I guess I just never brought this into my sphere of knowledge. You know when you learn something and you go, I should have known that, because I've been on the planet long enough, I should know stuff. Well, I was today years old when I learned that no one else has the same voice. My voice is my meal ticket. My voice is my profession. And it never occurred to me that it is unique. And to me, that was a beautiful moment this morning. It's nice to feel unique. And guess what? You might think you're on this planet to help everybody else, but you are allowed to feel unique and awesome and wonderful and as the best you are in this moment now, because you are. And that is amazing. How are we going for time, team? Okay, I'm ready to do such, unless there was something. No?
Is this...
Yeah.
Okay, so he doesn't get away that easy. I know Orlando very well, so I've got a few questions for him. I'm sure you have as well. So, when I first met Orlando, and he's taking me through some NLP coaching, I realized that I was saying the word you a lot. And he would pick me up on it every single time. And I think when we're coaching people, when we're listening to people and we're giving people advice, we can sometimes project our opinion onto them without knowing it. And I give you an example. The famous one I always say is that, when you wake up and you feel shit, and you just don't have the energy, and you're wondering how will you get through the day. Well, these are all you. These are all yous. And he used to say to me, who, me or you? I said, well, how do you figure it out? He said, who, you or me or you? And it took 2 or 3 days of me to actually realize I was saying you when I was talking about me. And if you do that in a coaching session, you're going to have some bad results. So tell me about...
Okay.
You went through representational systems, but how can you be aware of what people say to you and what they should be saying, and know to discount the auto-suggested commands in their language patterns?
Okay, so the first thing I want to say about that is disclaimer time. It's okay to be human. Okay, it's okay. Just picking on a word there because I like words. They mean a lot. Why we use should is not a word I have a lot of time for. Okay, shouldn't I have a lot of time for. My test, the fridge. You can tell I'm a cheesecake lover. I should eat the celery. I should eat the celery. I shouldn't eat the cheesecake. I shouldn't eat the cheesecake, right? Well, different words mean different things for different people. It's called semantic understanding of individual words. Some words have universal understandings. Generally, we just use them in a bit of a wonky way through habit and how we've learnt naturally. That is, however you did learn the language. And here's the cool thing, you can update your brain and you can learn to do something different, just like VJ did. Before I go into the referential index and that specifically, I'd also like to identify to all of you, did anyone notice what VJ's hand was doing, specifically finger, when he was talking about the you example over here? Okay? Did anyone get told it's rude to point? I got told that a lot as a child because I wanted to know about stuff. But what they never told me was it's rude to point when you're saying something negative towards somebody. You are a fantastic guy.
Thank you.
Look at how rude I am pointing at him. Oh my goodness, how could I do that? Well, it's all about what's congruent in your behavior. When you are doing things unconsciously, like being yourself, you'll do talking. I do it all the time. Have you noticed that when things are in the past, they're over here? And when I want to talk about the future, they're over here, right? Or the other way around. Now I'm doing it consciously. It doesn't work when you do it consciously. But using things through repetition builds a repertoire of being able to be congruent with other people. And congruency in my world, language to behaviour, here's an example. This is the best festival I've ever been to in my life. Right? Obviously incongruent, because this is actually the best festival I've ever been to in my life, definitely in Canada. And where our referential index is, that is where we place the reference that is indexed within a sentence. It's just a fancy way of explaining it. NLP, like every other modality, we make up a whole bunch of cool words so no one understands us, but we look very impressive. Reality is you only impress your mum because everyone else is sitting there going, what does that mean? Right? To place the referential index is just literally think of it this way. Who do you want to talk about in the sentence? Or, this is where the should word does come in, who maybe should you be talking about? You know what it's like when you go down the road and you get that feeling and then the next minute you feel really bad. Am I telling a story about someone else here? No, I'm probably telling a story from my own experience. I don't want to say I know what it's like when I'm walking down the road and I get that feeling, I feel really bad. I did that unconsciously. I feel really bad. Like, no, don't point at me, that's horrible. Right? Awareness. What's your body doing? What's your language doing? And I'll give you a quick example of how different it can be for someone else's internal experience. Because when I do talking, the only way you make sense out of it is by hearing it and interpreting it into sounds and pictures and feelings, which is called making sense of it, thinking. Okay? Example number one. I flew to Florida in 2016. I came down in the lift, I actually met Richard in the lift, but then I stood outside and I was walking around and I got myself some coffee and then the doors opened and lots of people walked in and they were rushing, so I rushed too, and I rushed to the front and I got a seat at the front in the chair I like, because you all notice that you all like sitting in certain places in the room, but if you have to go to the other side, it's really mean. Like if someone makes you move, it's like, but it's my chair. There's a reason for that, but we won't go into that in this moment. Anyway, I'm sitting in the room and then I heard the music start and then Richard walked in and I was sitting there and I felt certain feelings of excitement and that I was finally getting to do something, and then he walked up on the stage. Cool story, bro. That's a true story. I can tell you the exact same story like this. I wonder if you could imagine, for the first time in your life, you arrive in America. It's 44 degrees centigrade. That's like 106 degrees Fahrenheit. You are melting because you've just come from -10 in Timaru in New Zealand. And you get out of the shower, you actually meet the guy that is going to be presenting in the lift, and here's my awesome statement. This is what I do when I meet people I've been looking forward to seeing my whole life. I do stuff like this. You're Richard Bandler. And he looked at me and said, yes. And gave me nothing, no way out. And I'm in an elevator going, no more words. Mum would have been impressed, right? She would have been blown away. And anywho, you can imagine standing in the reception area and feeling the excitement with other people and noticing those double doors begin to open as you walk towards the double doors, music starts. You walk in and sit in your favourite seat, the music goes up in volume, and the guy you met in the elevator, who you've been wanting to learn from for over 20 years, walks 4 or 5 feet past you, and you don't even know that that is the precursor to spending hundreds of hours with him. Now, it's the same story, but is it a bit different? Maybe number 2 is a little more engaging. What changed? Now, obviously, I changed some of the words that I used and the way that I put across the sentencing. But the biggest primary difference is asking someone at the very beginning, I wonder if you can imagine. And the reason I say, I wonder if you can imagine, has anyone ever heard the phrase, once upon a time? So why do I use sing-songy voice? Because sing-songy voice means once upon a time. These are things that our mind goes, clunk, I know what to do with that. I recognize this pattern of communication. I will now regress to childhood and feel wonderful. That's at least the desired effect. Sometimes you might have to say a few more words. But with VJ, I treat VJ a little differently to I treat everybody else because he's different. We interact with each other in a particular way that I wouldn't talk to other clients like, right? But it's adapting my communication style to what the client's going to learn most adaptively, not, well, welcome to my coaching, this is how I do it. You can either sit down, shut up and do it how I say so, or get out the door. There are people that do that. Good on them. Happy for them. Not saying it's not a bad thing to niche down and know what you want to work with, but when you've actually got the paying customer in front of you, which you haven't paid, by the way, I'll send you a bill. Okay, so very quick recap on that. Referential index, it starts with awareness. It's like imagine having a microphone. You've got to listen for the sound in the speakers to know that it's coming through them, which means you'll hear your own voice.
Okay, another question. Hang on. In the field of, let's say, what we do, I think we all can agree. See what I did there? We can agree. Right? We can agree that building rapport and trust is of paramount importance. Orlando, tell me about using sensory submodalities, listening, being aware when somebody speaks to you in an auditory manner or in a kinesthetic manner or in a visual manner, that if you match that, you're much more likely to build that rapport because they understand it. If you're speaking in an auditory world and I don't pick that up and I speak to you, as you see my point, that kind of thing. So just explain how to build rapport using submodalities that you pick up through your awareness and listening to the customer, and then we'll stop.
Quick labels piece. The word submodalities refers to modalities within a bracket. The brackets are the 5 senses of the body. So within the sense of the visual, there are certain distinctions that we can make. Some of us use them a lot more than others, but you can all use them more by practicing them. For example, when you have a thought, is it black and white? Is it large or small, near or far away, fuzzy or clear? Any differentiation is a submodality. That is, it's sub to a representation system. It's not sub to a modality because that would be too easy and we like to use confusing language to sound important, right? So submodalities are distinctions within the senses that you can distinguish. What is the quality of your internal voice? What direction does it come from? The tone, the timbre, the pace. Where is the feeling in the body? What we didn't get to is, what does it do to get stronger? Does it spin this way? Does it spin that way? Does it spin this way? Does it go that way? Does it move through the body? Does it go out? Does it go in? If it's a good feeling, take what it's doing and double it and see how good you possibly feel. Imagine doing that just for fun. How much pleasure can you stand? Find out. You might pop. On the other side of it, if you don't like what's happening and you'd like it to do something different, if it's going this way, what happens when you use your imagination and move the feeling the other way? If it comes up, what happens if you push it down? If it doesn't like being pushed down, stand on a chair. Move it around your body. Keep the feeling still and move yourself. These things sound crazy, but it is no more crazy than the way people think and represent the world and speak to themselves internally and get themselves into a muddle. So if the mental game that you're playing at the moment is not getting you the result you want, at a structural level, at a submodality level, at a distinction level, change something. Notice what happens. If it gets worse, stop doing it. If it gets better in your estimation, do more of it. Does that answer your question? Or did I just go off on a tangent completely?
A little bit of a tangent, but I feel you, I hear you, and I see your point.
Yeah.
And I think I might even smell you. So okay, look.
Well, you ain't going to taste me.
Orlando's getting.